Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WVD Community Podcast. My name is Patrick Köhler. It's already the 8th edition of our podcast this week, together with Neil and Stefan. And we have one special guest today to introduce. It's Marcel Meurer. Welcome to the podcast, Marcel.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, really great. And yeah, Marcel, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, yes, I can do. Yes. My name is Marcel Meurer. In English, it's easier to pronounce Meurer. I know it's not so easy to use it in English, but it will work. Yeah, I'm working for a consultant company called Sepago in Germany, based in Cologne, Munich, and Hamburg. And today I'm responsible for our consulting business. And for myself, I'm working in the technical area of Azure, and more in the last years with WVD, which is, in my opinion, a good combination about end-user computing and Azure and the solution from Microsoft. Yes, I'm an Azure MVP in the 4th year, I guess, and started to build some tools and solution around WVD and Azure to make it easier. Oh, sorry. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, I guess everybody in the community is well aware of your tools, Marcel. It's very interesting to have you on the podcast as well. And yeah, as you already mentioned it, your tools. I think the most commonly known or well-known tool is the WVD Admin Tool, right? I think also my colleagues are aware of it. How did it came to that? Because you started already very early when WVD in his fall version was released. Can you tell us a bit, what was the intention to develop it? How did it came to it?
Yes, yes, it started last year. We made a lot of POCs, production POC for customers in name of Microsoft or with our own customers. And it was not so easy to work with WVD in this time. As you know, you have to do all with PowerShell. And I personally love PowerShell. I love doing stuff with PowerShell, but it's not so easy for the customer to do it if he leave or if the project ends, to leave the customer with a set of PowerShell commandlets and let them do the work. That was one thing. And the other thing was, there was no good solution at this time, and maybe and today, to make it easy to roll out new session hosts. And that was the main reason building this solution, to have a tool to easily create a template virtual machine, do all the stuff on top, install the application, install the hotfixes manually or with an software distribution system, and then to build a snapshot and roll out this virtual machine again and again and again. That was my reason. And if you do it natively in Azure, building a virtual machine, doing sysprep, grabbing the image and the generalizing before, then the biggest problem or issue is that you cannot longer use this first virtual machine to do updates in a week or in 2 weeks. That was the main reason, to have something on board which I can, or my colleagues can use to do our job easier.
Yeah, it's really impressive. I think I speak also for my colleagues. When I deploy WVD in a production environment, or even if it's just for a POC, yeah, I always made sure that your tool was also part of this kind of project, because it simplifies the processes of deploying, of updating, of supporting the users. And this was one of the main reasons why I said, okay, German developed software as well. For me is, I'm always proud to introduce German developed software as well in Luxembourg, but that's something personally.
Yeah.
No, but I think it's the same for my colleagues here.
It is. I want to personally thank you for saving me literally hundreds of hours.
Yeah.
No, because when I first started using the tool, I was blown away. Because like you were saying, when you first started using WVD, everything's PowerShell based, and even this simple stuff, you have to fire up a PowerShell command to assign a user to get information. And then I found WVD Admin, and I was like, wow. This is amazing. And obviously what I find really good as well is that you put a lot of time and effort into updating the tool as well, don't you? which is good to see. I know a lot of people probably just would have created a tool, done it, left it, and then off you go. But I think sometimes you update it on a weekly basis, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. There's one interesting thing about WVD Admin, and in the last year it was I think in September or so. I thought about a solution or to make it easier to work with WVD and to deploy it, and was a little bit angry about myself why I don't started such a project in not in January or February, months before, and that is the reason why I thought that it's easier to build a Windows application instead of a fancy web app doing the stuff in the web GUI. But it was it was not really right. It's not even easy to build a Windows application with I have to think about the name with this presentation foundation, or this XAML description of how a Windows application should looks like. But it was cool to learn it and to develop again after years a Windows application, and not only command line tools.
Actually, that would have been one of our questions, Marcel. You already answered it because it was pretty good. Because we asked ourselves, what was the intention of having a local Windows app instead of a web app? Because currently, like you said it, everybody wants to have fancy web applications. But actually, we are very happy, and the customers as well, that you did it as a Windows application, because it simplifies also the process for support guys, especially when you're working just in a normal support instance, for example, support department.
Yeah, that's good. I didn't suggest that, and I use it on a daily basis if I do my job as well. And that was another reason why I have this selector that you can select different customers and clients and so on. And maybe as you say, it's maybe it's an advantage that it's not a fancy web app.
Yeah, exactly.
But the reason was to make it fast. But I'm not sure. But I think I'm fast developing a Windows application instead doing web-based stuff with Angular on top and so on. That feels a little bit different.
Oh yeah, especially because it's not your daily business actually to develop your software.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so the WVD Admin tool, is it based on REST APIs, or is it based on just the PowerShell commandlets?
Yes, it's a good question. It's based on REST API, and I first tried to include the PowerShell CMDLET into the C# code, but that doesn't work as expected. So what I then did, and that is a little bit weird, I found the REST API calls in the documentation of Microsoft, but it was not so easy to find out how different commands work together. And what I did, I used the PowerShell commandlet and used Fiddler. And Fiddler is a web analyzing tool to see what different commands are doing on the REST API and rebuild
what responses you got.
Yeah. And that made it easier to build a native function in C# directly working with the REST API or calling the REST API.
Cool.
So it's not depend on the PowerShell.
Yeah, but it's all based on the REST APIs.
Yeah. And even the ARM version, I did the same. I was in the preview program, so I had access to the documentation and to PowerShell commandlet as well, and that was really good because I had some time to prepare WVD Admin before the ARM version, the Spring version, comes available to public.
Yeah. So currently your WVD Admin tool is supporting the fall release, the Spring release, and you also build in the functionality to migrate your deployment to the Spring release, right?
Yes, absolutely. But migrate means that it makes an exact copy of the host pool with the application and desktop and permissions into the Spring update. Yeah. And you can move, and that is really cool. I use this often. You can move session hosts between the fall and the Spring update and vice versa, and from host pool to host pool in every direction. And there's one reason why I use that. If you have a personal session host, a personal VDI, personal assigned, today there's no command to remove the user from this assignment, and you can move the session host into the same host pool and can unselect the user, and then you lost the connection and can reassign the session host.
I think that it's one of the most asked questions in the Slack channel,
Yeah.
right, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, technically, I remove the session host and will then reinstall the agent with a new key, and that makes the thing. Natively,
Same
there is
result,
no REST call.
So
Right now.
So when the obviously the moment all the metadata is held in US only, they're going to roll that out eventually. So I know someone asked a question on the Microsoft event today. It's like, are you going to be able to migrate your metadata information? And the answer was no. You'd have to create new host pools. Are you looking to do anything around that with your tool? Because I presume it could do similar stuff, right?
Yeah, I think I would do that to in the same way, to read the configuration from one in the US, maybe in the US with the metadata, and recreate it with a new assignment or a new location. Yeah, that's on my list.
Nice.
Like several other things.
And I presume you do all this in your spare time as well as part of your full-time job, right?
Yes, it is my work around my normal work. Yeah,
It's a second full-time job.
Second full-time job.
It's a real community thing, and I really enjoy it, and I really enjoy the feedback about that, and that motivates me to work with this, and I use it for myself.
How many downloads you've had of it, just out of interest? Do you know?
Sorry, didn't get it.
How many downloads have you had?
I don't measure it. No, I have no idea.
A lot.
But I get sometimes question around the world, and that is really fancy to see that that is used in Japan and around the world.
It's I think probably one of the most used WVD administrator tools there is. Yeah, I know.
Especially one of those tools which are offered for free, because you have also software where you have to pay, where you have to have a subscription or whatever, and you do this for free. And this is really impressive. And this is really a proof of good community work, actually.
Yeah, I think you have to do both. Yes, you have to earn money for sure, but to have some things on Stack to make it only for the community, that is, I think that it's important. I know that my boss didn't like it so much that I do that, but we have some other solution which the company I'm working for is selling. So I think it's a good mix.
Yep.
Yeah, right. But maybe you can tell us a little bit more about the software you develop at Sepago.
Yeah, yes, I can do. We do it in the WVD context, and we have some other solutions which can be used and tested, and where we offer support and license for. That is the monitoring solution. That starts as a project in 2017. That was interesting as well. I built the first version at the MVP Summit in 2017. I think it was around September or so. It was not in the beginning of the year at this time. And the first version, I have a picture from that where I was in a hotel in Seattle with a big screen, and I produced my notebook screen on that with the first version, and that was the first running version I developed. And it was at this time, it was more for Citrix and for RDS, this native remote desktop services, running in Azure or on premise or in both scenarios. And it comes over the last year more and more to support WVD and to add additional features on top. And that is what we have right now. A solution runs natively in Azure using Azure Monitor, log analytics in the background for the data sets. And that is what we are having now, and to monitor today more WVD. And that makes fun as well. I'm currently working to have more data in, and what I develop, or what I have ready right now, is to get the Avast Logic's load time of the profiles, which was not so easy to grab this from the log files out. And the next thing we will have is a time for group policy processing to have all this data, what happens in the early logon phase of a user. So that is what I'm normally working for.
So after that, Marcel, because I'm really curious, because a few weeks ago I did a session about login VSI, and we also talked about the FS Logic load time, the profile load time. But you said it's not that easy to retrieve that from the log file. But isn't it available via the registry of the user? So after a user is signed in, you will see the SID of that user, the profile list of FS Logic, and there is the current load time of that profile.
Oh, let me check this out. That would be a good help. No, I'm not ready with the log file, but that would be much more easier.
It's a lot easier because I already used it in combination. Yeah, I already used it in combination with the BG Info tooling, and I'm just reading that value and change it to milliseconds, and then it will just pop out the total profile load time, because your user profile load time will always be 0 seconds.
So it writes it to the event log, right?
Yeah, but the profile load time in the event log will always be 0 seconds, because there isn't a profile loading. It's the time of attaching the profile and then the action of FS Logic. So
I will check this out. That's good. And I'm impressed how fast FS Logic is. I have this running in our environment, and we have load time or attach time for the VHD or VHDX around 3-4 seconds. It's pretty fast if I compare to 2 years ago, the standard roaming profile.
Really and it doesn't even matter anymore how big the profile is. It's always between like 2 or 5 seconds. It's always between those values.
That's cool. Thanks for the hint. That makes much more easier than I
no
do
problem.
Today. Cool. And yes, you asked about what I do normally, or what we have or what we develop as well, is some scaling tool that is like the Microsoft tool for starting and stopping virtual machines. We have one solution. It's web-based. It has a fancy web GUI in this case. And the good thing is it works for thousands of virtual machines. So that is really built for huge environments or environments where it's not so easy to work with a virtual machine. You must now, for example, if you're querying the Azure API to get a list of virtual machine in a subscription, this is one call and you get all virtual machines. But if you ask a virtual machine if it's on or off the power state, it's one call per virtual machine. And if you're in an environment where you have 40, 50, or hundreds or thousands of virtual machines, you cannot do that in a normal way, because the Azure API will block you if you ask so often. And that is maybe one difference between the Microsoft solution. Yeah, and the last one, what we have, that's is a self-service portal for user, which are assigned to a session host. They can log in and start the virtual machine, the VDI, and stop them later, or it will be auto stop. So that is what I normally do if I have, in my normal working time and not my WVD admin time.
Yeah, but it's a great feature, because it was long before available than the other software solutions from Microsoft. I think the Logic app in combination with the automation account. So it really helped also to get started from the very beginning. And this was also, we were very happy to have it, at least. Or I had it already in place, because we had some difficulties with some clients. They needed to start their machines on their own. So the WVD starter helped in this case, that in the morning, because the time when a user starts couldn't be identified directly. We couldn't identify it from the very beginning. So they were able to start it from scratch by themselves. And that was pretty impressive. It helped a lot. Thank you.
And makes fun. You are working a lot with the Azure API, the WVD API. And so you can combine all what you learn together from the different, or in the different solutions. So that was one benefit of some ideas I had while I built WVD Admin, which I then can use in our business solution.
Yeah, great.
So does your business solution, does that do scaling as well, auto scaling, or are you just doing monitoring?
Our solution we sell, this is the monitoring solution and the scaling solutions, but we have them already for free for non-commercial, so that is fine to use for this kind of not really company, for private use. And what we have with, and that is what I'm very happy about, is the Azure Monitor solution we have is currently part and integrated into Nerdio. And that makes fun working with these guys together. They're really, really cool and really fast in developing.
So how did that get started, Marcel, the integration with Nerdio? Because it's one of the questions we already prepared. So
okay, yeah.
We can just talk about that right now. So
yeah, that was interesting. It was months ago, I think in short, around Christmas, I guess. I was building WVDAdmin, and I made a lot of posts via Twitter and telling what is new, that you have, that you can now use, what is the name, scale sets and so on, and how to deploy images. And then I got a private message from one of Nerdio asking me, could we talk together? I was not sure if they thought at this time that we could be maybe competitors or not, but this was the very first beginning, talking with Nerdio. And so it starts. And then we had a call, or we had different calls, and in one call, we was thinking about what maybe we can do something together. And this was one missing thing they had, a monitoring solution in part of their suite. And and then we started to work together, and that was really fast. I think the CEO, Vadim, I think he's so technical deep into the solution. I guess he's part of building the solution by itself and his team, and was made a lot of fun working and talking on so a high technical level with this US guys.
So that solution, is it all based on your current monitoring solution? So is it based on the application you should place on the host, and it's collecting the performance counters and uploading it to the Azure Log Analytics, right?
Yes, it's the absolute same solution. Without any license check that is built into Nerdio, but it's the same solution we have, and it's you don't need to deploy it from the marketplace. This will be all automatically done with Nerdio Manager for WVD.
Yeah, Nerdio will make sure that agents will be installed or available for your session.
Installed, put the secrets into the configuration, and all that stuff is done by the solution from Nerdio.
And is there also a dashboard, or the graphs are also integrated into the Nerdio portal, right?
Not directly in the Nerdio portal itself, but you have in the Nerdio portal, you can click on the monitoring link, and this will directly open the workbooks in the Azure Monitor workbook. Not workbook, workspace. Azure Monitor Log Analytic Workspace, and there the workbooks.
There you got your workbooks with the dashboards. Yeah. Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah, that's very interesting to hear that. Especially the combination fits very well, I guess, because Nerdio is especially personally for me, a very, very great tool to manage WVD as well, especially for very large deployments. Mm-hmm. Marcel, I suppose you already have some experience with very large deployments. Did you use Nerdio with this as well, or did you use WVD Admin only, or Azure Native? Do you have some experience on that?
Yes, it's yes. We started, I mentioned before, last year with a lot of projects, and we started that with WVD Admin. Mm-hmm. And we have different kind of sizes for the projects in Germany. Maybe smaller projects or something are still in a pilot or production pilot. But I had the ability to be part of some projects in the US with colleagues from Microsoft where WVDAdmin solved some showstoppers for customer. And there was one great thing I remember. I got a question from one colleague of from Microsoft. It was on a Friday evening, and he asked me, Marcel, we have a customer, a client, and we have to roll out VDIs. Sunday 3,500 and to Wednesday around 7,000 session hosts. And it was Friday, and I was I'm on the short for a discounter buying stuff for the weekend. And he asked me, Marcel, is it possible to work with WVDAdmin with thousands of session hosts and users? And I said, no, I'm sure that will not work. I know there are some limits right now, and it will not work from the stand. But it was so important that I said, what we can do if you give me a subscription where I can test WVDAdmin in such a way, in such an environment, I will make this happen. And it took some hours. On the next morning, on Saturday morning, I got a mail with some login data, or they added my user to a subscription in the US, where I was able to roll out, let me guess, it was 2,500 virtual cores for at least 1,200 virtual machines. And that was what I needed. And so I used a Saturday to work with WVDAdmin and run into some problems I know about the scaling of WVDAdmin, but I fixed them all to have that ready. And I wrote a mail on Sunday morning, our time, which must be in the night of Sunday in the US, that it now worked, and they used WVDAdmin to work with this count of session hosts and work with the user, log of users, and shadowing user and all the stuff. And this was really impressive because I used the Saturday to roll out first so much session hosts to test it, and it was impressive. I rolled out 2 scale sets, which each 600 session hosts in, and it took around 50 minutes for both to come up. And from this 1,200 session hosts, I think I only lost 2 of them in the rollout process. And that was really cool to see how does it work in such an environment. It was very impressive.
Wow.
We're still impressed.
Yeah, just to think that you can deploy, obviously, if you're averaging 10 users per host, you can deploy literally to support 12,000 users in the space of an hour.
Yeah, and you asked it for Nerdio. Yes, we started to use more and more Nerdio, a manager for WVD in our environment, but it starts a few months ago. So the big thing I did early this year was with WVDAdmin, but I see that Nerdio manager for WVD can have some advantage if you are looking for a suite doing scaling, monitoring, and rollout stuff as well to handle the images. But it's really great. So we do both, and we do native, but native is it's in the most cases we don't do it native. Even with WVDAdmin, you have the free tool, you can do a little bit more. Native is, I don't think that we have more than one which want to have it native, because the advantage is you have only one vendor, Microsoft, which is responsible for all. That is maybe a reason, or can be a reason, but then you have to live with a version which is public right now. And this is fall. Spring is not GA right now.
Exactly. Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Very soon, apparently. So I think I've got a feeling it's going to be sometime in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
I bet in the next 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
It can also be sooner, hopefully.
Well, we just have to wait for that one.
No, because it's one of the things which I love about WVD and working in Azure is, if you think back to say when we're deploying Citrix deployments and VMware deployments, you were kind of locked into that ecosystem, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now that we're working in Azure, Marcel can often write tools like WVD Admin, and you can add monitoring and do all you want to do, because all you do is put in your APIs into the system, right? So it's pretty unlimited about what you can achieve. I think is what I'm trying to say, which I find extremely powerful.
Yeah, that's a cool thing about Azure and WVD, that you have all this open APIs, and you can do any automation you want to do, and that makes I love doing that, and that makes it really fun. And for example, rolling out session host with pipelines is cool as well. Not for every company, but if you working in a company doing a high-level automatization with Azure DevOps and so on, even that works. So I think it's very cool what you can do.
And that's just one place where how you can configure it and how you can deploy it. It's like shell, ARM templates, the DevOps way. Today we saw the presentations from Jim Moyle with those logic apps, and so that whole ecosystem, it's awesome.
And it's changing so fast, right? I mean, look at where we were 6 months ago compared to look at where we are today, and then look at where we were 12 months ago compared to where we are today. It's just mind-blowing. And then you think to yourself, where are we going to be in 12 months' time? It's changing that fast. It's a very good place to be in. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. And I'm surprised from Microsoft how fast they are doing the development stuff and releasing new version to public or into public, and that is amazing. It was not what I expected years ago from Microsoft, and Microsoft they made a big change inside the company, and I feel it, and I love to work with Microsoft as well.
The most impressive thing for me as well is they're listening to customers. They are literally, you are asking, and they are literally putting that stuff into the product. Because we put a Slack channel in there where Tom Hickling is basically feeding back straight to product group. And that wouldn't have happened a few years ago, right? This is the new Microsoft. There's literally, we are listening to you. Tell us what you want and we'll do it. And then literally within a month later, it can be in there. So
yeah, absolutely.
But I think also it's the direction they should go, actually, because you cannot learn if you don't ask your end customers or the community behind, because we are all the people who have to work with it every day. Either if it's from the administrative side or if it's, let's say, from the end user perspective, we all can evaluate what the end user feels while using WVD. Even if the feature set is currently a little bit limited, we all know that compared to Citrix or VMware Horizon, for example. But due to the fact, like you mentioned, Marcel, that the development is at such a pace, so fast currently, I see a great future for WVD on the market itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And even in this time where we have this this problem with COVID and have to work at home, I think that was, I don't know the English word for that, but this gives WVD an extra kick, I guess.
It gave an immense boost. On deploying like DDoS solutions, and not only WVD, but in this case WVD, and for companies to extend their current workspaces online without the need of investing your hardware, extending your hardware. You can just literally deploy, like you just said, thousands of session hosts in an hour, and
and it's not so expensive than people sometimes guess. We made a calculation, or I made a calculation a few weeks ago with a customer, and we tried to give the AMD-based virtual machine, which has this GPU or this, let me call it Office GPU, a try, and we figured out that you can go down to 9, or it was less, it was €7 per month per user if you do some things correctly, like having this GPU style and not this NVIDIA, this AMD style virtual machine. If you schedule your virtual machine or doing this auto scale, shutting down and starting, and choosing the right license mode for the virtual machine. And if you do all the stuff, it's not so expensive. I was for myself surprised that you can have it with for €7 per month, only the virtual machine, including the storage, except the network and so on. For first calculation, was cheaper than expected.
It's quite interesting because on the Microsoft event today, they did a survey. And one of the questions they said, or they asked people what they thought was the blocker or what they wanted to improve upon to make WVD better. And the top answer was it's expensive.
Okay.
Which I was quite surprised at. I think the problem is people go onto the cost calculator. They see, it's $150 per month for a server, but they're not thinking about all the stuff which you just mentioned. It's like, that may be $150 per server, but how many users can you fit onto that server? If you switch that server off at weekends and during out of hours, it's not going to cost you that amount of money. It's going to cost you half that or a third that or all that kind of stuff. So it's
so it can be expensive.
It can be expensive if not deployed and managed properly.
Absolutely.
And optimized properly. So when you're designing your solution and it's based on like 4 users per VM. And with maybe the optimization, you can put on 6 or 8.
Yeah, a huge difference.
It's really, it's double your current users on that host. So yeah, it can be expensive, but with all those things, the scaling, the licensing.
And don't forget about the application servers as well. When we talk about infrastructure moves, if we do a lift and shift and stuff like this, you can benefit from reserved instances as well. If we're talking about servers frequently turned on. And this is something I see, at least when the customer comes to me saying, yeah, but I already made the estimation and look at the price. They most likely forgot the reserved instances.
Yeah. I think also what I see as well, a common mistake is when they look at reserved instances, they look at the 1 year reserved instance pricing, which normally works out more expensive than you were using pay-as-you-go. But if you do the 3-year reserved instance pricing, then obviously that goes down a lot lower, right? But if you're using the power management properly, and then normally pay-as-you-go is cheaper than using reserved instances. So.
Yeah, or you do a mix. That is what we figured out. Sometimes it's good to have a mix if you, for example, scale your host pool up and down, but you have to at least run some virtual machine, and that is one where you can use your reserved instances for. It's interesting that if I talk to customer, often they thought if you reserve the instance, you reserve one specific virtual machine, which is not true. It's you reserve the virtual machine size. And you can move up and down inside this virtual machine series. And I think that is one important point to explain to customer. And then it makes more sense to have a part of virtual machine with reserved, paid by reserved instances.
Absolutely. Marcel, maybe you have saw this 1 or 2 weeks ago. I guess it's 1 week ago. There was a call from Bas van Kaam about the user group. Stefan and Bas started the first user group in the Netherlands. And you saw it was not only 24 hours later, we had 6 user groups. What can you tell us about that? It was blasting for us as well.
Yeah, I only followed this on Twitter, and I was even surprised. And I was surprised that we only had not so much user groups to WVD before. But I remember that you guys building this user group, I think hours before or so. Yeah. How did you started that? I think it was at close to the same time.
Yeah. I think it was kind of like this because I had a chat with Bas that morning and he said, oh yeah, what about the German user group? And I just remember a few minutes later, Neil had his user group and it continued like this. And it was very exciting to see that, especially because we have a huge community already behind the WVD community started by Neil and Stefan initially. It was growing so fast. We had so many nations collaborating and sharing their knowledge. But what we could already see is that every nation, of course, has its own main topics as well when it comes to the workloads that are most interesting for them. What I see in Germany, especially the topic of auto-scaling, about printing, which is quite important, I guess important for every environment, but especially for us in Germany. And yeah, I think that is also a good chance in such user groups to talk about this kind of stuff. Yeah, and I'm very happy about this, that we also have our German user group actually.
Yes, yes. Then, like I said, you can talk more about the challenges, maybe in a German environment that could be different, like some other environments. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the big benefit as well is, or that was also kind of the intention, because we three work hard together in the community, making this comfortable also for the persons in the community itself to get heard when it comes to an events page, when it comes to the weekly newsletter. Neil is spending a lot of work in this kind of stuff as well. And yeah, it's really interesting to see that we have user groups and everything in the end comes together in the community itself. Yeah. Meaning by speaking on virtual events, as it's not possible in another way currently due to COVID, which is still active, we have a consolidated platform and everybody can have his voice. Everybody who likes to talk about Azure, WVD, FS Logics, or whatever. And yeah, I saw my two colleagues already have their first event plan. Maybe you can talk a little bit about this also.
Yes, so I've done the UK one, obviously. So we've got our first event on the 6th of August. So it's going to be a virtual event. So yeah, we've got three sessions that we've done so far. Well, we've got scheduled. So it's going to be myself speaking about just some best practice. I've got a mental blockage. Hang on. I'll tell you.
Oh, it's Neil himself.
It's me. Yeah. No, so we've got me, and then we've got a guy called Kirk Ryan. So Kirk's going to be my sort of co-helper, helping me with the user group stuff. So he's a sort of co-owner. So he works for NetApp. So he's going to be doing some information on WVD architecture. And then we've got a guy called Shabazz Dar. He works for a consultancy company over in the UK. So he's going to be doing a session on how WVD helps with the NHS, which is our National Health Service. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Cool.
How about you, Stefan? You've
done
the Dutch one, right?
So I've been setting up the Dutch one together with Bas. I think next week you will be hearing much more about the organization who's got involvement in the user group. We did not plan any event right now. We are waiting a few weeks and finalizing the speakers and the subjects. But yeah, it will happen soon for the Dutch user group.
I think the German guys should do one during Oktoberfest, and then we'll all come to that meeting.
That's a very good idea, Neil. I really like that stuff. Actually, we've announced today, or I want to announce today, that we have planned already something on the 19th of August, and we have one very, very special guest already, guest speaker. Marcel, can you tell me who it is?
Oh, yeah. Maybe it's me. And I'm very happy to talk about some interesting things. And I have some ideas what this could be.
Yeah, it sounds already great. I'm very happy to have you as well on board for this. It's really interesting to see that. And yeah, also kind of interesting because I received some feedback since the user group started that some people are interested also to have a German speaking event, because not everyone likes or not everyone feels comfortable to speak English, even though it's kind of required in the IT world, let's say. And therefore, I'm really happy that we can do this also in our mother tongue, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Neil, we have to practice a lot of German.
Okay.
With Microsoft Teams, we will soon have subtitles.
It's the same for the Dutch user group, because, well, we would like to create an event where people with not that much experience in presenting, and sometimes in their native language, it's easier to get started with presenting than in English. It's not their native language. So that's the reason why I wanted to start the Dutch one, because then you will get more people willing to present or talk about WVD or their solutions, but in their own language. So it's easier for them to get started with doing things like that.
Mm. Makes sense.
So
Good.
Perfect. No, we're really happy to have you on board, Marcel, and also today for the podcast session. Thank you very much for attending.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Because
Again,
it's
I want to say thank you, Marcel, for all you've done.
yeah.
Community.
Yeah.
For all the community stuff, for all the tools you created and updating, because we just mentioned it, but I think the WVD Admin Tool is updating like every 2 or 3 weeks. When Microsoft release a new functionality, you will provide it in the admin tool. So it will take up a lot of time, and also your presentations and your blog post. I now finally know how much time it takes to get it all sorted and started. So yeah, for me, a big thank you also.
Thank you.
actually, Marcel, I have one last question for you left. When it comes to the WVD Admin Tool, what is your personal favorite feature of it?
I think my favorite feature is that you can create this template virtual machine and build this image from that and roll this out. I think that is, for me personally, the much important feature, because I use this often to do maintaining the images, and so that is yeah, it's my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Very interesting. It's also good for us to know, because I'm always impressed in when somebody develops a software, what is his actually favorite feature of it? Because
Good question. Huh?
because I tried to start it myself as well, to develop a little bit of stuff, even though it's hobby developing as well. But you see that when you have something, you found out something very interesting, you are starting to dive deeper and deeper and deeper and improve your skills. That's the way how it starts, actually.
Mm.
Yep.
Good. Right, I think we'll let Marcel get back to his family.
It's weekend time.
Weekend
Yes,
time.
absolutely.
Beer o'clock.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time, Marcel. It's much appreciated. I know you're a very, very busy man.
Everything's fine. Thank you for your time and for the community stuff you are all doing. I really appreciate that, to be part of that, and yeah, it's really great what you are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right.
Bye.
Okay.
So
Goodbye.
bye.